We're here today to talk to you about how to jump. So there are a couple of things. What we're going to do is we're going to talk to you about how to not get hurt. We're going to explain what the vocabulary is in jumping and of a jump. We're going to talk about the 3 phases of jumping, and then we're going to just jump and have fun. So before we start, let's talk about what we're riding today. I'm on my YT Decoy Pro Race 2020 edition, which is a mullet, 29er front, and 27.5 rear, 170 mil travel, e-bike, 51 pounds or more, super heavy and super capable. We rode this bike out here today because we towed Tyler up on his downhill bike. So even though my bike is very heavy, I can ride it downhill almost as well as I can ride my Capra or whatever other enduro facing bike downhill. Tyler, what bike are you on?
I am on my YT Tuez. It's the 27.5 edition. It's got Kashima coating and it's got long travel, so speed is what I need on these jumps.
So what he wanted to ride his trail bike today, his YT Izzo, but I encourage him not to because where we're riding today there are enormous jumps with enormous gaps and enormous doubles, and we thought it'd be kind of fun. How often do you get to really ride your downhill bike in the winter when the bike parks are closed? But it doesn't matter what bike you ride. You can jump on a hardtail, on a rigid bike, anything. In fact, hardtails jump better because of the fact that they don't suck up the energy from the jump. They just have a rougher landing if you don't get it right. So whatever bike you typically ride is going to be perfect for jumping in this way. Before you start, let's talk a little bit about safety. You'll notice Tyler and I both have our full face helmets today. I have my 7 IDP carbon fiber fancy whatever Project 23 helmet. Love this helmet. Super light and comfortable, but most importantly it protects me. Some people might know my wife Josephine had a bit of an accident wearing her 3/4 face, and she had to get stitches in her face and has some scarring, and that's not pleasant for anybody, especially she's definitely not happy about that. Tyler's got his 661 with MIPS. I think that's called the Recon, but that's a super good helmet. It's a little heavier, it's a significantly lower priced helmet, but it really is awesome for protection. Have you crashed in that helmet?
Yes.
Yeah, you have. And what happened to your face?
Absolutely nothing. Just ate a bunch of dirt.
Ate a bunch of dirt, that's good. Right now, me and Tyler both underneath our jerseys have elbow pads and knee pads on. I actually have hip pads on too, just because I don't mind wearing them. And we pretty much ride with we ride with knee pads every time. We don't always ride with full faces if we're on trail, but when we're jumping, we always wear full face and elbow pads. And frankly, if we're going to the downhill park, we usually put on our chest protection and our Leatt neck braces. So safety is critical. Don't be a knucklehead and do any of this without a helmet. That's easy. Let's talk about the bike setup for a second. So on your bike, if you have a dropper, put it down before you do the jump. If you don't have a dropper, lower your seat down before you jump. Why is that? Well, what happens when you jump is that your body starts low and then it comes up, just like any other jump. This is a normal jump, just standing on the ground. Your body goes down, bends at the knees, and then comes up. If your dropper is under you and limits you from doing that, it'll have a tendency to buck you forward and potentially send you over the bars. So for us, on this bike, I have a dropper. I'm gonna put the dropper down, keep it out of the way. For Tyler, the bike he's on today does not have a dropper. It has a fixed seat post, but it's a downhill bike, so it's lower than a trail bike, but it's much higher than a trail bike with the dropper down, and it works really, really well because that's just how these bikes are designed. But you want your seat out of your way first thing. Beyond that, for setup for your bike, there isn't too much to worry about as you're first learning how to jump. What's going to really matter is just make sure you've got some air in your tires and normal type of setup stuff. As long as the bike is running okay and your brakes work, you're going to be good. Nothing special required. We jump any kind of bike that we have, and they all jump awesome. It's just that, frankly, it gives you confidence if you feel like your bike is right. So for me, I'm 38 now. I really started riding when I was 36, and I had ridden motorcycles quite a bit, but on the road. I'd never really gone fast on dirt bikes, so I had no clue how to get air. It took me forever to learn how to jump pretty much anything more than a curb. And so little tiny 6-inch jump was very intimidating and frankly dangerous for me because I didn't know what I was doing. So this video is going to serve to help you figure out how to jump safely, regardless if you're like me and you are maybe old enough now that it hurts a lot when you crash, or if you're like me in that you have your 14-year-old son with you and you don't want to see him get hurt, or whatever your kid's age is. Our 7-year-old daughter Kaja also loves jumping, and she jumps really well. And same thing, I want to make sure that she has the fundamentals down so that she knows what she's doing. And because I didn't learn this right, it took me like a year and a half to get the basic fundamentals of jumping down. The thing that really broke through for me was spending time at the bike park. For us, that was Big Bear, that was Santa's Village, just spending time going downhill, hitting perfectly built jumps over and over. Any jumps you find on the trail will typically never be as good as the jumps at the bike park for learning. So let's talk about the parts of the jump. So the most important thing first is to establish for yourself what we're going to call a line of commitment. This is a place where once you've passed this point, you're going to jump. What you don't want to do is you don't want to be coming up the jump and decide right here that you no longer want to jump. Because if you do that, then you're likely to end in tragedy. So for us, we're going to put the line of commitment way back here. Once we pass that line, then we're going to have to hit the jump. We need to decide before that point. So while we're doing that, let's go over some vocabulary that you might hear. What you can see there is the line of commitment. The next thing that you see is this. This is the face of the jump. Why don't you bring your bike over here, Ty? Put your bike on the face. Boom, Tyler magically got his bike over here. So Tyler has his bike right now on what is called the face of the jump. This is basically the front side of the jump, the upward ramp of the jump. This is the part where really kind of the magic starts to happen. The next part of the jump that we're going to talk about is called the lip. The lip is this right here. It's where the face of the jump transitions into the top and or the gap or whatever it is for the jump. The top of the jump is here. Notice that if you are coming at this jump, it can look pretty big because the lip looks big, but when you look at it from the side, you can see that you could easily and safely roll right over this and nothing would happen. And in fact, that's what we're going to talk about doing first. Next, you have the entire top of the jump. This is known as the table. So this is a table jump, so if you come off the lip, you hit the face, you come off the lip, and you just roll, no consequence. There's no big gap here like there are in some jumps. A jump with a big gap in between can be called a gapped jump or a double, sometimes also a triple. On this side over here is the knuckle. So this little magical spot here is the knuckle. What's interesting is, typically when you're learning how to jump at first, you always jump too short. So when you jump too short, you're going to land into the knuckle and it feels very abrasive. It like puts a lot of stress into your wrists and your legs and all of you. And then after the knuckle is the down ramp or the landing of the jump. Now, when you hit any part of your bike, particularly the back wheel, front wheel, whatever, into the knuckle, it's called casing. You case the jump, meaning you land on the top rather than the down ramp. Casing a jump is not dangerous, it just steals your speed and steals your flow and isn't as fun and doesn't feel good. When you hit a jump and you land on the down ramp or the landing, what happens is that you just smoothly accelerate away. It doesn't really work the suspension, it's just perfect. It just feels amazing. And so you get to continue your flow through that trail or whatever line that you're riding in that case. Now we do, for our method, we intentionally case jumps a little bit at first if we can safely do so. So next we're going to talk about exactly how you approach this jump and what we recommend that you do first, which we call adding an inch. So what we're going to have Tyler do is we're going to have Tyler roll to the jump in the attack position, meaning bent knees slightly, bent elbows, looking straight at the jump, and he's going to come into it, and he's going to do very little and kind of just roll over the jump with the intention of landing on top so that he can get a feel for the entire jump. So Tyler, we're going to have you do that now. All right, so what Tyler's going to do is he's going to roll up the face of the jump, and he's going to not do much and let the bike roll over the table and roll down just to get his bearings. Go ahead, Ty, let's see what you got. Beautiful. So because of the fact that after the lip of the jump, the face, then the lip, there's a little bit of a sort of a part where the jump goes down. So Tyler, just by rolling and doing what was natural, he ended up getting maybe 1 inch of height over 12 inches of air. So he got a tiny bit of height even though he basically did nothing. And what he did was he learned how to roll over the jump, what it feels like, what the landing is like, and what the exit is like. It's critical to understand your exit. You can see a skid mark maybe a little bit here where I went to the left earlier messing around with a tail whip that went a little bit sideways. I don't want to go down that long ravine over there because frankly I don't want to have to climb back up and I could get hurt. I also don't want to go into that tree. So what Tyler's able to do in that process is he's able to get a feel for not only the jump but the exit of the jump so that he knows what to expect next. What we'll do now is I'll hop on my bike and I'm going to come in and I'm going to ride the jump with very little effort but calmly, and I'm going to float the jump without a lot of preload. Now what is preload? Preload is like when you are on a pogo stick and you jump down. It's that jumping down before you spring back up. The suspension of the bike will work somewhat like a pogo stick in that you press down into the face of the jump and then it will pogo stick you slightly off beforehand. Now what's critical is staying relaxed. So there are 3 things that we do. The first one is we preload the jump and then we do a little style move in the air. Why do we do a little style move? Is it to look cool? Yes, it is. But also we'll do a little move of the bars or a little move of the hip. We'll do a little something every time we jump because what happens is it keeps us loose. There's something that's known as the dead sailor where you get in the air and you get tight and you're like a corpse that's been tossed off the side of a ship is I guess what that means, kind of grotesque. But what happens when you dead sailor is that as you lock up, you start to kind of spin around your center. And as you spin around your center, what happens is your wheels of your bike are going this way and you just don't want to land that way. If you take off and you do a little something with your hands or a little whatever, it just kind of turns your tension down so that you can stay calm through the jump. So we're going to preload, we're going to do a little style move, and then we're going to land front wheel first. For most jumps that have a landing, you want to land front wheel first. People would say, maybe not, whatever, especially people my age, we jumped on bikes where you had to land rear wheel first. Why do you want to land with your front first? The front wheel steers the bike. Until that front wheel is down, you cannot steer. So if you come off of this jump as an example, you land rear wheel first and you're going a little to the side off trail, you do not have steering until your front wheel touches down. So based off of the way that modern bikes are built and based off of the fact that steering is a very important part of staying on the trail, we always strive to land with our front wheel first. Now there is a fear at times that you'll get bucked and you'll land too much front wheel first. How do you overcome that? This whole entire thing, including not getting bucked, starting to get more stylish, starting to get more comfortable, all of that comes down to just laps, repetition. You need to just jump many, many, many times over and over and over in a controlled condition, similar to this, where you can just practice a lot in order to get it. No matter how many videos you watch or people you talk to, it will not come together until you try it 100 times or whatever your number is. In my case, as a somewhat slow learner, I had to try like 1,000 times before I could jump at all. So again, the 3 things that I'm going to do are, I'm going to pass the line of commitment, and after I do that, I will preload the jump. I'll do a little style move in the air, and then I will land front wheel first. So now we're looking at a double. This is a jump that you could come up to this and you could roll this and then kind of roll over that second little hump there. The way it's designed to be ridden is that it's designed where you take off from here and then you land onto that down ramp there. It's about 18 feet. Actually, it appears, as you can see, 2.5 bike lengths, very approximately. And so the same exact principles are going to apply. We're actually just after our previous jump. So rather than a simple line of commitment like last time, we'll create a rule of commitment in advance. And when we are hitting big jumps, 20, 30 feet across, or 12, 15 feet high with a 15-foot gap or whatever, when we're hitting big jumps, we'll create these rules and we'll discuss them before we start learning that jump line. So with this one, my rule is I will only hit this double if I had a clean landing on the previous jump and I have a clean exit of the corner directly before it. So I have those two things in my head, and I know that if I have those two things right, then I can just send this jump and I can cleanly land 18 feet later or more, and I can land on that down ramp. Now, let's talk about what would happen on this exact double if I didn't make it. If I landed sort of nose first into that hump, with the bikes that we're on today, with 170 mil travel fork, 170 mil in the rear, not much is going to really happen to me. It's going to be unpleasant in that it won't feel flowy and it'll slow me down for the next set of moves, but I'm not going to crash or go end over. There are many doubles though, many even just ahead on this trail, where if you don't make it, you're going to get hurt. And so this takes a lot of practice and commitment. And because we were just riding a similar feature with a similar length of about 18 feet as a table, I feel very confident today that I can hit this safely and land on or beyond the landing ramp. So you can see here the face of the jump, the lip, and then the gap begins. So the concept is that I just have to take off from here and land over there. The entire thing with doubles is just confidence and commitment. If I am confident and I commit and I jump the same way that I've done thousands of times before on tables, then I'll be able to easily soar over this gap and land there. Now there's one theory that reverses when you go from a table to a double. On a table, we use the theory of adding an inch. You come in, you kind of land on top and go. Then you go slightly faster, you land an inch further, or a foot further, or whatever it is for you, kind of add an inch at a time until you have that big jump down. On this, quite the opposite. When we are unsure on the pace that we need for a double, we will intentionally oversend it, so we'll often on the first time land like 5-6 feet too far. It's a huck to flat, it's just a little less smooth, and that's the only consequence.